All right, so I'm going to change the topic again myself, if that's all right. I want to ask my fellow panelists here if they can think back to the first video game that they actually felt ashamed to play or finish or keep playing or keep going back to. For me, it's pretty easy to remember what it was. Unfortunately, it was Chicken Little on the PS2. I finished Chicken Little, and the reason I even started playing this silly game was because it was my 1,000th PS2 game. So I had my picture taken with it at the store where I bought it. And I was like, really, this is 1,000? Can it be something else? I'm thinking, can I buy like, I don't know, something cool like Mark of Cree or something else? No, I already had all the cool stuff. So I had to buy Chicken Little. So I thought, you know what, it's special. I'm going to have to remember this. It's going to go down in history, my own personal history. So I played it. And I started playing it. And it was kind of fun, actually. And if people would come over, I would shut the system off and say, oh, something's wrong with my PS2? Oh, what were you playing there? Oh, no, nothing. I was just looking at one of those underground demo discs. Yeah, something came up. I don't know. Was that Chicken Little? No, it wasn't. It wasn't. I think there was a preview for the movie Chicken Little. I was not playing that game. So that's my shame game.
I'm too embarrassed to say.
Yeah. In the 80s, how games like Zork, like interactive fiction, were big, right? You know that there's a subgenre adult interactive fiction. Okay, game. All right.
I don't know if I ever played a game that I'm ashamed to play. That's such a harsh.
Very loaded.
I'm ashamed to play this.
Very loaded word, Syd.
I don't know. I'm going to think about this some more.
Jay. You know you have one.
I have a lot more than one. I'm gonna go last actually because I think I can probably top last. Are you done trolling there in the second row, buddy?
Let's see here. I don't really have anything that I'm ashamed of playing, but I guess embarrassed maybe if like one of my friends had come over and watched. I think, yeah, Little Mermaid on NES.
No joke, I played that 2 days.
No, it's a good game.
It's a good game.
You can beat it in 20 minutes. But no, yeah, I went to go rent the game, because I went out every Friday night or whatever, we'd go and rent games or whatever, and of all the games, I picked out Little Mermaid. Like, I'll take that. And then, yeah, no friends came over that weekend, by the way.
I felt really bad. Difference is that it wasn't because of the game. When I bought Three Stooges as a kid, I was a huge Three Stooges fan, and not many kids were because it's a series from the 30s. I know I'm not old, Drew, but I got into it because my father used to tape them during New Year's marathon. He would tape them. So anyway, the game was announced like 10 months before, and I saved up my measly $2 a week allowance by mowing lawns and taking out the trash and making my bed. That was my allowance. So that's all the money I had. And the games back then were the same. People complain games cost money now. No, they don't cost money. Because the games that are $60 today cost $60 back in 1989. And that was like $100 today, if not a little more. So imagine spending $100 on a game, Three Stooges, and you realize I just blew my entire year's allowance. It's not even a bad game, but I was still disappointed. So I'm there at 9 o'clock at night coming back from Electronic Boutique from the mall, and just sitting there like, wow, I can't buy another game again for like 8 months. This is all I have. Unless my birthday or Christmas comes around, the allowance money, that's the only game I could ever get. So that was just not shame, it was just sort of like, oh, come on, really? It's not like when I got Contra, where you're like, oh my god, I'm blown away. It's Three Stooges, it's not a bad game, but, okay. I'm going to switch topics now. Oh, you want to go first?
I'll tell a story.
Jay, do you want to go first? Yeah. I'll let Jay finish this, but I'm not really ashamed, but I guess it's embarrassing. But I really enjoy, and I think Joey enjoys it too, a game called Mega Man Soccer on Super Nintendo.
Nothing wrong with that.
How many people know this game exists? I can only imagine.
Very collectible.
This. I can't confirm this, but I'm pretty sure Capcom said, "Oh, the World Cup is in the U.S. this year. We should put out Mega Man Soccer." And it's a weird game, but it's fun. I also enjoy Alfred Chicken. Alfred Chicken's fun. Okay, what?
Real quick, if we actually have games that we're ashamed that we enjoy, Back to the Future on the original Nintendo. I can still beat the game to this day within like 20 minutes.
Go you.
I've actually witnessed Joey do that, so he's not lying. All right, guilty pleasures. That's basically what you're saying. I love, I like kids games, like Up on PS3 and Lion King and Aladdin, stuff like that. So, game I was ashamed to play. I'll tell y'all so you can laugh, and then I have a medical reason for playing the game. Hannah Montana the movie, PlayStation 3. Told y'all, hang on, it's true, it's true. Okay, the medical reason is, it's kind of long and drawn out, but basically I have OCD to a certain degree. Okay, like, when I met my ex-wife, she had a kid, so, ready-made family. My, at the time, daughter wanted to play Hannah Montana on PlayStation 3, and it was on my profile. Well, she played it for a little while, decided she didn't like it, didn't want to play it anymore, and every time I checked my trophies, it was incomplete, and it really just bugged the shit out of me. So I had to finish it. So thanks for laughing at my disability, jerks. It wasn't that bad, but it was not the best of both worlds. I see what you did there, though. But no, I really do enjoy kids games. That's a guilty pleasure of mine.
Well, Britney Dance Beat.
I have the Spice World game on PlayStation.
Oh, yeah, Spice
Game.
World.
You haven't danced around?
Yeah.
PlayStation, you ever heard of that?
You know, like Bust a Group?
Yeah, I
Kind of.
you heard of that? I got that. New topic.
How about this could be either something that surprised, what surprised or generally shocked you when it happened, a moment in time in history, whether it was a game that you were surprised was either really good or was built up to be good and failed, or something that maybe the industry went in a different direction that you were surprised at or happy about, or just your thoughts on that. And I have nothing in my head right now, I just thought it'd be a good topic.
Can you guys finish the systems at some point too?
Oh, you want to finish the systems we have up here? All right, well, Sid can probably talk more about this, but this is a Bally 4. This is a Pong clone, correct, Sid?
Yes.
Maybe you can talk more about that real quick.
She took over our panel for a second.
This is one of like a couple hundred different Pong clones that were available. It's called the Rally 4. And I just brought it because for those of you that haven't actually seen a Pong style machine, and a lot of people have seen just the regular Pong and Super Pong, so I thought I'd bring something maybe that you haven't seen. But it's kind of cool because it has Vanna, if you want to take the controllers out. You can actually remove the controllers. This was actually an amazing feature in the 70s, that you could actually remove the controllers from the console, because a lot of the first ones, it was all built in to the machine. So that's that one, and then that's probably good there. And Jay, if you can hold that up. This is
Changed everything.
yeah. So this we've talked a lot about the NES, of course, and things changing here in North America in 1985. But in 1983, over in Japan, this little device was the very first iteration of what we know as the NES. And over in Japan, it's known as the Family Computer, or the Famicom. And interesting to note how short the cables are. It's like, here you go. You have to the TV has to be 6 inches away from you while you're playing this thing. This is why you never knew the graphics were bad, because you were so close to the TV that you really couldn't see them and you went blind after playing for about 6 minutes. Yes.
How come that system never made it to the States?
Well, it is a good question, and there's a lot of theories about that. But I mean, the system did make it, but a lot of times, part of the design of this system has to do with just Japanese design and how they feel about things and how they create things, and things are very small. Williams got an answer. But when it did come here, there were a number of issues and design issues. They wanted to look like something different, and that was one of the reasons. What were you going to say, Willie?
One of the reasons the cores are so short is because in Japan, it's usually sit in the tatami room, which is his mat.
It's smaller.
And everything's smaller. So
Their futons, they lay them out, they go to sleep. So it's really very close quarters.
And honestly, even the cartridges themselves were really small, smaller than what the ones that we got used to. So they made the cartridges bigger. As we know, even in the boxes, they literally are padding the boxes with styrofoam. Everything was made bigger because, in general, Americans were, yeah, it's American, and we get your leftovers. But anyway,
There's a lot of empty space.
there was a lot of empty space. But the other cool thing that if you like this design, of course, and if you're a fan of Game Chasers, which of course you all should be, you can see what happens when you find the top loader and what a problem it causes between these guys. But the later iteration of the system in North America, at the very, very end of the cycle of the NES, there was a North American version. And part of the reason was it you that was talking about the Game Genie?
Yes, he did.
About the Game Genie, talking about the fact that the top loader wasn't compatible with the Game Genie, and you needed an adapter. That was one of the reasons. But they kind of, like typical Nintendo, they actually sort of recycled some of their ideas and made the top loader version look an awful lot like the Japanese version. So, and it's cool. It's a very cool version. Oh, sure.
If you take apart a American NES cartridge, you can see that there's a lot of empty space inside.
There is, yeah.
Especially in the earlier ones.
Yeah, and I also want to note the Famicom turned 30 years old this year. 30. That's old. Happy birthday, Famicom.
It's actually got a mic on the controller or something we didn't get.
Yeah, so like in The Legend of Zelda, one of the enemies, you have to blow into the mic. Yeah. The Famicom was a very, the way it was designed, Hiroshi Yamauchi was in charge of Nintendo in Japan, and he was so strict on how this thing was designed. He said it has to have this, it has to have this, and engineers were like, working day and night on this. When the first batch of Famicoms came out, they sold about 1 million units. They were pretty successful, and then they discovered there was a defect in the board. And Hiroshi Yamauchi said, okay, we have to give everybody a brand new Famicom that bought one. I mean, that's how dedicated he was to seeing this thing be a success. When it came over to the US, it became the NES. Lance Barr designed the NES version you see today. He designed the top loader. And I don't know if you know about the advanced video system. That was the very first design of the NES. It had it had wireless controllers. It had a cassette player. A modem. It was wacky. It's in the Nintendo World Store if you want to see it.
I was going to say, actually the first Famicom had square buttons on it, which is really weird and uncomfortable, so they did away with that.
They really used the computer of the Famicom name because there was add-ons for it. They had a keyboard, and they had, of course, the famous one, the Famicom Disk System, which was at the time they used that to premiere Legend of Zelda and some of the other big games on there. The problem with the Famicom Disk System was that you could copy the games. There's no protection. And so after a year or so of figuring that out, they're like, this is not good for us because now we're losing a lot of money. So you walk into any store, there's one in New Jersey, Digital Press, where they're from Japan, and they have like hundreds of discs. I remember looking at them, and probably 80% were pirated. And so that's why that nice expansion port in the bottom of the NES, it was there, but it was never used. Because why would you ever use it? Because why would you give away games for free, basically?
I have a comment on that. Sorry, I've read a lot about this. Yamauchi had like a vision of, just think about this in like '83, having a vision of like what we know as the internet today. But he was like, I want people in their living room to play games on this. I want them to get the weather. I want them to get the news, and that's why he demanded this expansion port, which we never used, be on the bottom. He's like, someday we will use this expansion port for add-ons. And also on the disk system, they had kiosks in Japan where if you wanted a new disk system game, you could take like Legend of Zelda and be like, oh, I want this other game now, and you put it in, it erases it, and puts the new game on it.
Nintendo was really good at planning for things that never came around. They actually were in somewhat deep talks with the Minnesota State Lottery, I believe, when the NES came out, to have a modem that hooked up, and then for a monthly fee, you could play the lottery at home for like 10 times a day or something like that. For a lot of obvious reasons that didn't get off the ground, but it's just interesting to think about the things that they actually were planning on trying out. Yes.
For the first Famicom, was it the same with the Super Famicom, where they have to ship it out at
I mean, when the Famicom came out, I mean, it was popular, but it wasn't expected to be a huge smash success, I don't believe. I mean, Nintendo was pretty successful with the Game & Watches by that point, but Super Nintendo was a huge, huge deal that obviously followed to the Famicom. But I'm actually curious, what in the hell is this?
Okay, does anybody here recognize this?
Telegames USA.
So I brought this with me just because, well, it was close by, but also it's kind of interesting. So it's one of those things, and actually I'm going to use this moment to do a little advertisement for tomorrow. We're all doing a panel tomorrow at 3 o'clock about video game collecting, so make sure you come to that. And as a collector, this is my lead into this. This is something that I came across that is probably one of the most unique consoles out there. There's a company called Telegames, which, much like our classic game publishers, person who's here in the room right now, took games that were at the end of the life of a console and started producing games for systems. Telegames did that with a lot of the Magic software for the ColecoVision and television. And basically what they did was when everybody else, when the main players left the table, this company came in and started making games. And by the way, Telegames is still around. Unfortunately, Nintendo Power is gone, but if you look through pretty much every issue, you know there was always an ad for that Ocarina. I don't know who's making that Ocarina every month in Nintendo Power. I really want to know what happened with that. It must have had some sweet advertising deal. And Telegames was the same way. They made games for the Nintendo products, but back in the day, they picked up rights for games that had kind of been at the end of their life cycle. This console is actually a ColecoVision clone. It plays all ColecoVision games, and it also plays Sega SG-1000 games, for all of you who have SG-1000 cartridges. And a little bit of history there. Everybody knows Sega for making game consoles, but Sega actually made computers in Europe. And we actually have one of their computers at the Personal Computer Museum. So if you want to come and check that out, you can see a bit of Sega's history. And so the SG-1000 was actually really a Sega Master System, but in a computer form, with a few differences. But basically that's what it is. So that's what this really, really strange console is. So it's called the Telegames USA Personal Arcade. If you ever find one, I didn't bring the controllers with me, but they're kind of cool looking too. If you ever find one, grab it. It's an extremely, extremely rare console.
Are they affiliated with Sears?
Not that I know of, no.
Well, Sears carried, Telegames put out the Atari 2600 for Sears.
Sears.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're thinking of those labeled games, yeah, no, it's
Sears,
different.
So
yeah.
Sears wouldn't carry Atari brand, they would carry Telegames, and even the games said Telegames on for Atari, at least in the U.S.
That's why I got put on here. No, I'm just kidding. He believed me for a minute. He actually believed me. He was like, really? Wow. No, it's, you know what? Almost every game console manufacturer does that. They'll put expansion ports on their systems, thinking one day. And basically, what it is from an electrical standpoint, what's a bit again? It's basically a bus that allows them to access every major feature of the console, and hoping that one day that they'll actually do something with it. So, yeah, I think that's probably the next thing. So. We're at about 10 minutes left, or just under 10 minutes, so at this point we're going to turn it over to you guys and ask if you have any questions about gaming history that we can answer, or any questions in particular from any one of us.
I haven't played the game, so I really don't know, but would you say the Atari 18 game is really that bad? I really don't know what to say about it.
I don't think it's that bad, myself. It's bad, but it's not that bad. I've seen worse.
Yeah, there's much worse. It's not that bad. It's a little frustrating, but I don't think it's the worst game ever.
Who was the one that said it was like a good game? Would you
Now, Billy.
Guilty pleasure, maybe?
Oh.
Okay.
No.
So would you say it's a game you're ashamed?
No, not really.
Oh, okay.
In the back corner there.
For one of the questions, what would you honestly say would be your favorite gaming system of all time?
Favorite gaming system of all time? I would say Game Boy.
Super Nintendo.
Super Nintendo over here.
PlayStation 2.
NES, PlayStation 2.
Super Nintendo.
Gamecom. Next question.
Got the glasses?
God bless me.
Got the-
Have any of you played Gremlins at all?
Played what?
Gremlins.
Gremlins 2?
No, just Gremlins.
On,
It was the one where they had eggs that you
on
had
2600?
No, like which console?
I'm not sure if it was the Atari.
Commodore?
It was available on.
It was pretty bad.
About
As far as I remember, it was one where you kind of drop eggs and before you turned into Gremlins.
I've never played that one, but I actually have that on Commodore 64, but it's sealed in the box. I'm not opening it. It's sealed.
Okay, do you guys watch your own stuff? Like, do you sometimes just go on YouTube and watch your own videos?
I'm very narcissistic, so yes.
Absolutely.
It's painful. Okay, so I started when I was like 19, 20. I'm 26 now. So it's like a time machine. I watched as I aged. It's really disturbing, and I can't watch it.
No.
Yeah.
Orange shirt.
Have you sold your rare? Yeah.
No, I have not. The question was, have I sold my NWC cards? No, I have not.
Would you?
Good, no. You got the cash, buddy?
$2.
2
5 minutes left.
Alright, I'll do the yellow first.
What's your favorite Legend of Zelda game?
Link to the Past. I'm OG, Legend of Zelda, the original.
Ocarina.
I agree. Of all time.
Minish Cap.
Faces of Evil.
Whoa. Kingdom Hearts in front.
Okay, what was one of the best NES to Game Boy ports you played? In my opinion, it was Little Rang.
Best NES to Game Boy port. I really like the Felix the Cat port. It was basically identical.
I just got that. It is
Yeah,
good.
it was very good.
Not exactly a port, but you could kind of consider it. I think Kid Icarus of Myths and Monsters, is that the sequel on the Game Boy?
It's pronounced Kadigarus.
Shut up. Nerd. No, seriously, that is an amazing game. I think it's much better than the original.
Hat.
Sorry to bring the whole topic of bad games up again, but I just
It's okay.
have to ask.
We forgive
What
you.
is your favorite LJN game, if you have one?
Mine would be A Nightmare on Elm Street. 4-player game, by the way.
For me, it's Jaws.
Yeah,
Jaws is a good game. It's soothing.
My parents still play that to this day.
Maximum Carnage on the Super Nintendo is a really good game. I like it a lot.
And I just bought it.
These waterfalls.
3 minutes.
Next question.
I'm more to bad games. Can you tell us more about Action 52 and Cheetahman?
What was the question now?
Action 52 and Cheetahman.
What about? Okay, so Florida, you had Vince Perry wanted to cash in on the craze, so he hired like a couple of college guys to program 52 games and put it out for $200 and try to create Cheetahman as a Ninja Turtle sort of like entity that you could try to make comics and action figures of, and obviously it went horribly wrong because the games aren't even games, they're like tech demos that are incomplete, and you can't fit 52 Nintendo games on one cartridge. It's impossible. So they're like, each one's like 2 or 3 levels long, and if you get through them are that crazy, they just loop anyway. That's all.
There's actually a few games on the Action 52 cartridge that, if taken the time, would have been pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
So, and Cheetahman 2 was never released in stores, so you can kind of technically say it doesn't exist, so it doesn't count as 100% NES completion. If you're one of those guys.
2 more questions real quick, and then we got
On the end.
Pat was talking about when Nintendo was first being marketed in North America and it was like 12 guys just going out. I remember hearing something about making a marketing deal with Teddy Ruxpin. Can you elaborate on that a little more?
I don't think I brought that up.
No, you didn't, but I.
Do you guys know more of that? I don't know much about that. Well, Teddy Ruxpin was Coleco though, wasn't it?
Actually, World of Wonders was the name of the company, and they were.
Okay.
There
There's actually, Nintendo had a lot of stuff they were messing around with in terms of distribution. World of Wonders was one of them, and also, if you look at some of the early Nintendo stuff, you'll see Mattel on everything as well. And of course, those are all deals that eventually fizzled out, but that's where the Teddy Ruxpin sort of connection is from, is World of Wonders.
And Atari turned it down.
Yeah, that's the other big thing too,
Atari
right?
said no.
Yeah, Atari, and instead Atari said no, and Atari was stuck with like the Lynx and stuff like that. So they obviously made a in the hat. Last question.
What is the weirdest video game accessory you have ever laid your eyes on?
Well, I know what the weirdest one is.
Weirdest one?
Well,
There's the hands-free NES.
For disabled people, they have the hands-free NES controller that you control using your breath and your tongue. So that exists. It's really expensive. Only really strange NES collectors want that. I don't want that because like, what am I going to do with that? I have something that only maybe 3 or 4 people have that I want to do a video of. But screw it, I'll let you know. It's the Super Seat controller for Nintendo, and so you sit down on it and you shake your hips left and right, up and down, and that controls your NES game. And they never really came out with them. Either they were just test units that are out there, or maybe Syd knows more about it, but no one has information on this thing.
The exercise bike. I've actually seen one of those, but I can't tell you much about it. That's probably Norm's job. But the NES exercise bike.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's what he has to contribute to.
That's true.
Yeah. So basically, they made this like stationary bike that I guess you plug into your TV, and I don't know what game you were supposed to play with it, but.
There's a biking game, and on the screen you would bike.
In 8 bits, you would exercise bike, and you saw yourself on the exercise bike. But you had to buy like the setup for the pedals, and you bought the controller port, and you bought the game with it, and that goes for a lot of money too. This is almost going into the collecting panel.
Yeah.
All right, we're out of time, guys. Thanks so much for coming. Don't forget, tomorrow we will be here at 3 to 5 o'clock talking about collecting